There is one key element the thoughtful photographer must always be aware of and study. The element is light. It is ever-changing, and just as quickly as magical light arrives, it disappears. Often you have minutes, if that. Being prepared and ready for it can make a photo, quickly elevating it from just a snapshot to a possible portfolio image. As the saying goes, luck favors the prepared. In broader landscape photography, you just have to show up repeatedly, being as prepared as you are able, and hope against hope that nature will bring you that magical light. There really is no substitute for preparedness. So many things influence light, such as cloud cover, the position of the sun, mountains, atmospheric conditions, and any combination of these things. Sometimes you have no choice but to work with what you are dealt, and sometimes you realize that those few extra hours of sleep would have been preferred over what you see in your viewfinder. The thrill of the hunt keeps pulling us in, and coffee keeps us going. One benefit of macro photography over landscape photography is the distinct advantage of being able to sculpt the light on your subject, even amidst difficult or challenging conditions. However, you can only sculpt the light if you have the right tools. A few weeks ago, I was excited to find a local iris farm and arranged to meet my friend Wes there for a few hours of photography, therapy, whatever you want to call it. The field was not very large and was totally out in the open, as you can see in this photo of Wes. In this image, you can see that I had come prepared with a few key items that experience has taught me are invaluable. I arrived with my camera and tripod, my cable shutter release, a round 12-inch diffusion disc, a round 12-inch silver gold reflector, and finally a 32-inch round 5-in-1 reflector set. The only part of the 5-in-1 set that I thought I might need was the interior diffusion panel. When packing at home, I'd considered not bringing the 32-inch set, but I'm so glad I did. Just look at all that sun. We arrived at 10 a.m. when it opened to the public. The weather was transitioning to more sunny from overcast, and it was a little breezy. I'll admit I was a little disheartened. I wanted the clouds to stay, and I wanted the breeze to leave. There is often a breeze where I live, and as a macro lover, it frustrates me more than not. I've learned, however, that lulls in the breeze always come, and patience is key. Patience is a virtue I'm still working on. There were people constantly getting into my shots, milling up and down between the flower beds. However, one gentleman was gracious enough to offer to help hold my diffuser for a shot or two. It was appreciated as the wind had increased in intensity about that time. The next few images were taken as examples of different lighting situations, and as with most of the images in this video, they are quite minimally processed and taken with the same camera settings, allowing you to see the light as it was. This shot shows a flower as it was in full sun. You can see it's not a very pretty shot, and the light is quite harsh and unappealing. Here is the same flower again, only this time the sun is diffused using the large disc. I happily took full advantage of its size, blocking as much of the area surrounding the iris as I could. The light here is much better in terms of being more even, with the highlights more controlled. However, it's pretty flat, and the flower lacks dimension, with the highlights being too muted and the shadows being too soft. Now, in this image, the flower is still diffused, but I've also feathered some reflected light back onto it, which added much more dimension. This dimension is an important building block for a more impactful image. If you're wondering how I went about the process behind the camera, this shot Wes took shows you. I'm looking through my viewfinder so I can utilize the focus peaking feature of my Sony A99 camera and hopefully take a shot when the wind allowed my subject to move back into position. The large diffuser was resting on the back of my head and left shoulder, while my right hand was using the small reflector disc to feather some light carefully back onto my subject. If you look carefully, you can see the wire of my cable release going to my right hand. I was holding it with the button just under my right thumb, so I could press it when needed. The following shots are straight out of camera and totally unprocessed, allowing you to see the difference only a little bit of light sculpting makes. The only difference between the two shots you see here is a little pop of light, and the right one required a lower shutter speed to compensate for that added brightness. Here's another set of examples, again unprocessed. You see the flatness of the diffused flower on the left and the added dimension the light provides on the right. You can see how the light also helps the flower to stand out from the background. The added brightness and color in the flower helps it to hold the eye much better and allows the background to take a back seat. Here are two more images side by side. In these examples, the camera settings were the same. The only change was a bit of light feathered in. I just love the illumination and vibrancy the colors picked up simply from that slight kiss of light. These are not the same image, but I think side by side they do a great job of demonstrating just how much impact light can have. The image on the left is unedited. The image on the right has been fully edited and is the look I was going for. So the next time you're in the field and experiencing less than ideal lighting, I encourage you to be prepared and experiment with sculpting the light yourself. I'm Pamela Reynoso. I hope you found the information in this video helpful as you continue on your creative journey.